All right, let's get straight to it. This isn't your typical review. Think of this as a high-velocity intelligence briefing. We're going to pull back the curtain on GoKapital and give you the real, unvarnished truth, how they operate, who they're really funding, and where their actual advantage is in the market. So let's dive right in. First things first, let's hit the big question that probably brought you here. Is GoKapital a scam or is it legit? You see these ads for lightning-fast business funding, and you know what? A little skepticism is a good thing. But here's the deal. Asking if they're a scam or legit is kind of the wrong question. It misses the entire point because they're not even playing the same game as your local bank. To get it, you have to understand the game they are playing. So here's the absolute key takeaway. GoKapital is not a bank. They are what people like me in the industry call a capital liquidity arbitrager. What does that mean? Well, they live in this huge gap that traditional lenders have created. They make their money on the difference, the trade-off between cost and speed. You have to understand, they aren't selling you cheap money. They're selling you velocity. Okay, here's our game plan for this briefing. We're going to cover 4 key intel drops. First, we'll lay down the final verdict on their business model. Then, we'll break down their product matrix. Think of it as their arsenal of financial tools. Third, we'll zero in on their ideal target. Who are they really funding? And last, we'll look at the insider angle, that hidden advantage for brokers. So let's get right into that verdict. You see, traditional banks, they've pulled back. They're rejecting something like 80% of small business applicants. That has created this massive, underserved market of totally viable businesses that are just starving for capital. And that gap? That's exactly where GoKapital lives and breathes. And this right here really shows you the core difference in their entire philosophy. You've got fintech companies like OnDeck or BlueVine that run on these rigid black box algorithms. If your file has just one tiny little blemish, one flag, boom, their system automatically kicks you out. No questions asked. GoKapital's big advantage is their marketplace model. They use actual human brokers who can take a file that's a little messy, you know? They can understand the story behind the numbers and then find a home for that deal in their network. They are literally designed to pick up the deals that the algorithms just throw in the trash. And this quote just nails their whole mission. Look, they are not trying to compete with Chase on interest rates. They can't, and they know it. What they do instead is compete on speed. We're in an economy where a missed opportunity or even just a delayed payroll can literally kill a business. Getting funding in 24 hours isn't just a convenience, it's a strategic weapon, and that's the weapon they're selling. Okay, so let's move on to their product matrix and see exactly how this whole thing is built. We're going to look at their 3 main funding tools. And you shouldn't think of these as just generic loans. They're more like specific keys designed to open very specific locks. First up, we've got what is basically the holy grail for any new entrepreneur, the unsecured startup loan. And just look at that number. 0. 0 months of time in business required. This is something a traditional bank would just laugh you out of the room for. It honestly seems way too good to be true. And, well, it is. If you don't know the hidden rule, a 700+ credit score gets your foot in the door, but it absolutely does not guarantee you a seat at the table. There's a really critical piece of insider info you've got to know. And here it is. We call it the 5 Tradeline Rule. See, since a new business has 0 history, the lender has nothing to go on. So they use your personal credit history as the collateral. They need to see what's called a thick file. That means at least 5 established credit accounts. We call them trade lines. Think a mortgage, a car loan, a few credit cards that you've had for a while. Why? Because it proves you can juggle multiple debts responsibly over time. A really high score from just one credit card, that's a thin file, is going to get you an instant rejection. Your personal credit history is your business's resume. Okay, next tool in the arsenal, hard money loans. Now, this is built for real estate investors, and the whole philosophy here is completely different. With this kind of loan, the lender is laser focused on one thing, the value of the property. They care way less about how perfect your personal credit file is. And this chart just lays out the key difference. See, most hard money lenders, they draw a hard line in the sand at a 620, maybe 640 FICO score. But GoKapital is willing to fund investors with, let's call them ugly credit files, even below 650, as long as there's plenty of equity in the deal. Basically, you're trading a higher down payment for what's called a lower loan-to-value ratio. And that trade-off gives you access to capital that almost everyone else would deny you. And finally, we have the Merchant Cash Advance, the MCA. This is the ultimate tool for what we call a bleeding neck problem. These are those situations where if you don't get cash in the next 24 hours, your business is probably going to die.
The classic example is making payroll by Friday when a huge client check is late. And let's just be brutally honest about the trade-off here. The cost is high, really high. Instead of an interest rate, MCAs use something called a factor rate. That means for every $10,000 you borrow, you're going to pay back somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000. But here's the thing. Nobody takes an MCA because it's cheap. They take it because the cost of not taking it, missing payroll, defaulting on a contract, literally closing your doors, is infinitely higher. You're not buying money, you're buying survival. So all of this brings us to probably the most important question. Who is this stuff actually for? GoKapital's clients really fall into two very distinct camps. We call them the credit exiled and the friction intolerant. So, the friction intolerant, that's your rehab Rick. He could probably get a bank loan, but he absolutely cannot wait 60 days for a decision. The deal will be long gone. Then you have the credit exiled, like gig economy Gary. These are the folks who are completely locked out of the traditional system, maybe because of past credit problems, no collateral, or they're in an industry the banks just plain don't like. And of course, you've got payroll panic Patrick, who just needs to solve an existential crisis right now. And don't get it twisted, this is a massive market. I mean, with rejection rates from the big banks hovering around 80%, you've got this enormous ocean of entrepreneurs out there, all generating real revenue, who have been told no again and again by the traditional system. That is GoKapital's entire hunting ground. All right, now for the last piece of the puzzle, the real insider angle. GoKapital doesn't just work with borrowers. They've built an entire ecosystem for loan brokers and affiliates to plug into. See, for an independent broker, they offer a lot more than just a simple commission on a funded deal. What they've really built is a complete business-in-a-box system. It's designed to help brokers not just close more deals, but, and this is fascinating, to actually profit from the deals that get denied. And here's exactly how they do it. They give brokers these embeddable application widgets so a broker can take applications right on their own website. They have a second look program so you can make money on deals that your primary bank has already said no to. And this is the really clever part. They have a credit incubator funnel. So if a lead doesn't qualify, the broker can downsell them to credit repair or other services, earn a commission on that, and then resubmit the stronger application later. It is a system built to monetize every single lead, whether they're qualified or not. So we end up right back where we started. When you're looking at GoKapital or really any alternative lender, the question isn't whether they're good or bad. The only question that really matters is this: what are you truly buying? If you're out there shopping for the absolute lowest interest rate, this is not your store. But if you're buying speed, if you're buying access, if you're buying a solution when every other door has been slammed in your face, then you understand their product perfectly.